Another thing that developmental researchers typically look at is attachment and attachment style. So attachment is just the relationship or bond between a child and their caregiver. And this is based a lot on the caregiver's responsiveness to an infant, right? So what type of reactions is a caregiver giving when a child cries or when a baby cries or when all of these things happen. So the still face, that's just when a mom will stop making faces or stop responding to baby's emotions. And this causes babies to freak out because a securely attached baby will learn that different emotions they display will result in responses from a caregiver. You can watch a video of that here if you're interested. And so, attachment theory, there's a couple different people that have different opinions on this. It's just the idea that having a secure attachment to a caregiver supplies a child with a secure base where they can feel safe and grow and learn. Children without this secure base have challenges in these things. So there are 3 different types of attachment, well, 4 technically, but 3 common ones. There's a secure attachment. This is just that children feel comfortable exploring around their parent, but when they are separated, they are going to cry. When their parent comes back, they're likely going to be easily comforted. People that have an avoidant attachment, these are people that will typically like ignore their parent when they're in distress. Anxious, ambivalent, these are people that, or babies that want to be comforted by a parent, but also reject that comfort. And then disorganized, these are people that just aren't attached at all to their parent. This type of attachment style is measured using a strange situation paradigm. So that means there'll be a parent and a child in a room, a stranger will come in, the child will be playing, the parent will leave the room and the stranger will approach the child, then the child normally cries and then the parent will return. And to determine which of these attachment styles a parent and child have, they'll be observing that reunion of the parent and the child when the child is uncomfortable or crying. So we're going to watch 3 different examples of that. So this first one, this is going to be an avoidant attachment style, and not avoidant, anxious. And you can tell pretty quickly that the baby is crying and upset, but also kind of rejecting comfort from the mom. So we'll watch. All right, so that's an anxious attachment. Now we'll watch, this is an avoidant attachment style. Yeah, it's pretty clear to tell, where is my mouse? That this baby just doesn't care that her mom was gone at all, so pretty avoidant. And here's a secure attachment. Sorry, this baby cries pretty loud. So you can tell right away with this baby that she was upset. She came right to her mom. Her mom was like, I got you, and she stopped crying. But these different types of attachment have different outcomes. So people that have secure attachment with their parent typically are more social, compliant, and better at regulating their emotion. And then those that have insecure attachment typically have greater conduct problems. They might be less social. They might have poor self-control, things like that. These are implications that can also go into adult relationships. So people that have secure adult relationships tend to have healthier relationships, and it's easy for them to both be close up with others and also to be easy. They're easy to depend on others, right? They're not too concerned about kind of like maintaining a lot of their own, I'm trying to think of the right way to say this. They're not uncomfortable with depending on others, right? Avoidant people tend to have a hard time getting close to people. They don't want to be dependent on others. They have a hard time opening up to people. And then those anxious attachments tend to be pretty clingy. They might be very, very jealous. They may constantly be afraid that their partner is going to cheat on them. And so this type of attachment can change as you get older, and not all of our relationships have the same attachment style, right? So just because you have a secure relationship with your mother does not necessarily mean you have a secure relationship with your father. And it might mean that you have a secure relationship with your boyfriend, but maybe you have an avoidant relationship with I don't know, your roommate, something like this, right? So this can be different for different people. If you're interested in learning what your own attachment type is, there's a survey. You can do survey option 2. I've put it onto TCU Online. You are absolutely welcome to go ahead and do this. Not required at all, but it is pretty interesting. I took it. It's kind of interesting. So the last thing we're going to talk about today are other things that develop into adulthood. And one of these things is morality. And so we're going to look at Kohlberg's moral stages. So these are 6 stages of moral development. And most adults don't ever go past this conventional moral kind of like stage. And so only like 15% of actual adults end up in this section down here. So if you're looking at this and you're like, this is my thoughts, then great. And we also make different moral decisions based on these different circumstances. So with children, typically judge what's right and what's wrong, right? Their moral development based off what's good for them and what's bad for them, right? So something that's bad is something that they get punished for, right? And something that's good is something they get rewarded for. And so their sense of morality tends to be pretty selfish, and that it's just what's bad is punishment and what's good is reward, and that's what determines their morality. In this conventional section, this interpersonal concordance, that's the idea that what's good is what's good for everybody, right? So what does the majority think is right? That's what's right. Law and order, this is what does the law say is right? This is what's right, and what's the law says is wrong. This is wrong. So it's kind of this idea that we will obey laws without question. That's where a lot of people derive their morality from this type of moral decision making. And then at the very end, we can see here social contract and universal ethical principle. Social contract is this idea that we have our own personal values and that these can override our kind of obedience to laws, right? So if a law infringes on our sense of morality, we choose to ignore that in certain circumstances. And then this universal ethical principle, this is the idea that our moral principles are greater and more important to us than the laws of the land, and we are going to always follow our moral principles regardless of their interaction with the law. And so this is super interesting to think about, and it's going to be the main point of your guys' discussion and participation points for this lecture. And so I'm going to walk through exactly what I'd like from you guys for this discussion. So first, what I'm going to have you guys do is open this document. It'll be called Moral Dilemmas Doc. And so let me show you what that looks like. It's right here. So in this document, there are 3 moral dilemmas, and beneath each of them are 2 possible moral outcomes or moral decisions for each dilemma. So what I need you to do is, you can read all of them, but just pick one of these moral outcome or moral dilemmas. And for each of the outcomes underneath it, I want you to identify which of these moral stages a decision like that would come from. So you might say, hey, I just read this decision. I think this is a moral stage of law and order, right? So somebody in this law and order stage would make a decision like this in this moral dilemma. So you're going to go through, pick one. I want you to identify both of the outcomes and which moral stage you think they belong to. And then I want you to post that into TCU Online. So I need you to include the dilemma. You also need to include both of the outcomes, and you need to include both of your moral stages that you think correspond with the 2 outcomes. You're going to go over here to your TCU Online. You're going to go to discussions, And then you're going to go here to this discussion thread. I want you to post all of that. In addition to this, what I would like you to do is also reply to one of your classmates' posts. This is not a moral debate. I don't want to hear anything about, you think torture is good, whatever. No. The point here is that you agree, disagree, or suggest an alternative moral stage to one of your peers based off of their post, okay? That's going to count for your 2 participation points for this class. If you have any other questions about this, just let me know. Excuse me. But that's my expectation for this. And I hope you guys all have an excellent day.